Welcome to the name game. Workout number 95 is down and dirty. 4 rounds for time with a 20-minute cap. We have 25 for males, 20 for females calories on the AirBike, 5 sandbag cleans, 150 for males, 100 for females, and 2 legless rope climbs to 15 feet. Let's talk standards. For the AirBike, you need to make sure that your butt stays on that seat until the screen actually shows 25 for males, 20 for females. Next round comes around. When you get back on the bike, you need to make sure that you reset it before you actually begin going into your calories. For the sandbag cleans, some part of the bag needs to be touching the floor at the start of each rep. So for example, if you choose to touch and go them, it's fine. However, you make sure that the bag, some part of that bag is actually touching the floor. Obviously that's very simple if you're dropping and resetting. The big thing with the sandbag clean is making sure that when you get it up to the shoulder, they're actually showing control that it's on the shoulder. So if you leave it out in front of the body and just kind of get it there and it's not really establishing control, that's no good. You need to make sure that you're showing control at the shoulder on each rep. Finally is the legless rope climb. Obviously you can't be using your legs on the way up for it to be considered legless. However, what that includes is when you touch above that 15-foot mark, you can't establish a leg lock until you touch above that point. So if you choose to use your legs on the way down, just make sure you touch before you actually establish that lock. Obviously, you do not have to establish a leg lock on the way back down. Now, if you're someone who's not using a 15-foot rope, because maybe your facility doesn't have one, make sure you talk with your coach and figure out what would be a good equivalent for that. For people who are doing this on a 12-foot rope, I would recommend just doing 3 legless rope climbs instead of 2 each round. So let's bring in Coach Chris and we'll talk about strategy.
So first impressions are kind of the tough parts in the 2 transitions. So what I mean by that is, right, you have the 25 or 20 calorie AirBike, and then into your sandbag cleans. Initially, my first reaction is, ooh, that's a tough combo because you're going to be breathing decently heavy coming off the bike. And if you've ever done sandbag cleans, you're basically just in a hunched over position. And the only time you're not in a hunched over position is when you have 150 pounds pressing on your diaphragm. And so that can really kind of spike your breath rate and your heart rate. And so that combo is tough. And then we were kind of talking about it off air that over time, your lats and your grip could start to get fatigued from the sandbag clean, just like the hugging of the sandbag. And then you go into arguably one of the most grip and lat intensive movements in the sport, which is a legless rope climb, right? And so you kind of have, something that could be very breathing and heart rate heavy, and then something that could be very upper body pulling and grip heavy. And, it's only 5 reps and it's only 2 reps. So it's something that you might not feel right out the gate, unless obviously you're just not there yet with an upper body in an upper body pulling capacity, right? Like the legless rope climb is the great exposer of that. Like if you're not there, you can't fake it,
Yeah. It's really the only movement that I can think of that it's like, if you don't have the upper body strength, you just can't do it.
Yeah. I'd be hard pressed. I'm sure we could kind of come up with a couple other ones, but like in terms of upper body pulling in our sport, right? It's like with a barbell, right? Like if you see a 315 clean and a ladder and you can't clean 315, you're not all of a sudden going to be able to kip 315 onto your chest, right? Like you're just not strong enough. And with the legless rope climb, it is that. Like, yes, there's cues and techniques you can do in terms of driving your hips, kipping your knees to make the movement easier. But if you can't do a strict pull-up, you will not be able to do a legless rope climb, right? Like that's just the way it is. So yeah, that combination will probably get tough as well.
Yeah. And if you want to spend the least amount of time on the rope possible, which is what you want to do, you don't want to spend the most time on there because then your grip gets fried. What that means is a hand over hand pull, which then by kind of definition, that means you only have one hand on the rope at a time, which means that you're pulling yourself up with one arm.
Right.
Essentially. Right. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a little bit easier because you got your weight of your momentum kind of going up a little bit before you pull, hopefully. But that compared to if you can't do that and you have to kip with both legs and keep both hands on, and then like move one hand up, kip again, move the other hand up, and like hand over hand it with like a kip in between each one, you're going to spend like a double the amount of time on the rope. Your grip's going to get shot. And it's not because of a grip limitation necessarily. Mm-hmm. It's because you don't have the good enough upper body pulling strength.
Right. And that's kind of, if you fall in that bucket, you're not going to catch anybody in this workout. It just is what it is, because similarly, if you've ever done strict handstand push-ups in a workout that get away from you, like they're just gone. You know, it's like
very similar to that.
Yeah, it's like you can rest and rest and rest, and you still can't do it because your muscles are just shot at that point. And the legless rope climb is similar. So being able to execute on that, it will be super helpful and important in this workout.
Yeah, you kind of have to, if you're someone who doesn't have the capacity on the legless rope climbs yet, you just got to put your blinders on and kind of run your own race on this one. Yep. Just to make sure you don't completely blow up. But for people who do have really good capacity, then you can race. Like you're not going to fall off the rope. Like go for it. Like see what you can handle on the bike and like speed up your cycle speed on the sandbag cleans a little bit.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't do that in round 1 and round 2. Like feel it out, kind of get into it, because it's definitely a longer, pretty aerobic workout. But yeah, you can definitely start to race a little bit if you got the capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it is 4 rounds, and so it's a pretty long workout. Most of which, if you're pretty good at the other 2 movements, most of it's going to be spent on the bike time wise. You know what I mean? So making sure you approach it in that way, you don't come out too hot, and then making sure you're moving. For the sandbag cleans, across 4 rounds, I might move at a little bit of a methodical pace where you kind of pull it to your lap, clean it over your shoulder. Take a couple steps to turn yourself. To the shoulder, put it back down, take a breath, and then do it again. But with the legless rope climbs, once you decide to climb, it's like get moving, so you're not fatiguing on that rope.
Yeah, that is a great way to think about it. Like when you're under load or when you're got tension in the system, you got to move quickly to kind of be able to unload that system again. So for example, like you don't do a power clean standing up and like hold it in the front rack for 5 seconds before you drop it. It's like you get that thing off there as quick as you can. Like you meet the standard and get rid of it.
Right.
It's the same sort of idea with like a legless rope climb. Like get up the rope as quickly as you possibly can, get down the rope as quickly as you can, and then rest on the ground to recharge.
Sure. Yep. Exactly.
Cool. And at this point, people have seen what we've gone over at camp, so people can kind of implement a lot of the techniques that they picked up for legless rope climbs in particular from that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited to see people take this one on. It'll be good.
Yeah, this will lead us. We got a week or 2 after this, and then the Open, baby.
That's right.
And lastly, we encourage as many people as possible to jump in with you and do these workouts. We've got people who want to throw down with you. By all means, encourage them to do that. However, we want everyone to submit their scores, right? So where you're going to go to is zorfitness.com. You'll hit on menu, drop down from the protocol. You'll hit that tab called Name Game. And then you'll go down to the first workout, which should be the newest one. And you're going to click that little green arrow. There you'll be able to enter your name also with the workout name. That's important because it tags it so it doesn't get lost in the forum later on. But then you obviously are going to put your score or your time, and then you'll submit it. If you click on that little number next to it, you're going to see all the other comments, right? You might actually not be able to view them all. So if you hit view all comments, that's going to take you down sort of a leaderboard where you get to compare scores. And then also your coach gets to help determine where you stack up versus other competitors to be able to determine your individual weaknesses. It's going to be super helpful for us, pretty exciting and engaging for you guys. And if you're someone who's watching this, you're not a Zor Fitness athlete yet, I'll link to it below, but you can either check out the protocol or one-on-one coaching, and we'll reach out, see if you're a good fit. And for everyone, best of luck on the workout.